welcome to the show, everyone. This is the open mic spotlight show with your host, Cathleen McIver, and today we have an amazing guest who I love to play with and laugh with and watch create in the world. Today, our guest is Cathleen Connor. Kathleen Connor is a very unique, exciting speaker. She is a Being You Class Facilitator along with an Access Consciousness and Body Process Certified Facilitator. She is a contributing author as well in the book Possibilities in Parenting. With the tools of Access, she loves to facilitate change for children and adults through bodywork, group classes, and one-on-one clearing and coaching sessions. Giving people the tools to know that they know and realize the gift that they are to create conscious change in their lives with joy and ease is her specialty. So, Kathleen, welcome to the very first unique open mic spotlight.
Woohoo! I'm still grooving to that music that you were playing just to lead in. That was really fun. I'm so glad to be on the show today, and especially I love hanging with you too. And even though I can't be in the same room with you for the interview, it kind of feels like I am, and I'm just honored and excited to be here with you today, Christine.
Awesome. Well, Kathleen, you and I love to play together, and we actually had the opportunity. We met when Kathleen came to my city, Toronto, to go to a Symphony of Possibilities class with Dr. Dane here from Access Consciousness. And she actually stayed with me. And wow, we had so much fun. And I just remember us laughing and dancing. We just did a lot of both.
Yes, that was fun.
And, it's Kathleen, when I think about you, this is the energy of you that comes to mind for me. The joy energy that you are and the playful energy that you are. And you can get very serious and very much look at what's not working in the world to change it. But the energy of you, for me, has always been play and possibility. What has been the feedback from other people when you're speaking with them?
Well, it's funny because you talk about that I can get serious to change things, but usually if I'm getting serious, I don't change very much. So that's interesting that you talk about the joy and the possibility, because when, especially, one of my roles right now in the world is being a teacher, and I work at the elementary school level. And when I'm getting serious with kids, I'm really not that helpful to creating more with them. But when I'm in that play mode and that dancing body mode, whether I'm actually dancing or not, then it just allows more change to happen in a more joyful way. So part of working with kids reminds me of that staying in the joy and staying in that kind of dancing with life mode creates change much quicker and with much more ease and fun.
That's fantastic. Now, so how long have you been teaching for, Kathleen?
Boy, I would say, let's say more than 20 years at this point. I don't try to think too much about how long it's been, but it's been a while.
So what got you into teaching?
Yeah.
What got you into teaching?
That's a great question, because it wasn't until I started using some of the Access Consciousness tools that I realized that it wasn't even necessarily totally my choice. I was just always fascinated as a kid with how people work and how they don't work, and like how people create over time and how they change. And because I had that fascination, my mother often used to say, Kathleen loves children. And I think I was just more fascinated with, how people work. But I kind of got, implanted with, I love children and I'm going to work with children. So I went down that path of working with kids and in the role of being a teacher. And then, of course, I had two of my own children as well.
Right. So when you started to work with children, what was it that you started to notice that you enjoyed and that you were frustrated by? And maybe not even from the children's aspect.
Yes. As you know, Christine, that my main role in schools is, what we call here in the States a special education teacher. So I work with the children that have some kind of label placed on them so that they can get extra services. So whether the label is autism or specific learning disability or attention deficit or communication disorder, there's all sorts of labels that we've come up with here in the United States to kind of, look at different ways of giving kids services. And although I'm glad that those kids can get some extra attention when they need it, what I get I'll say what's frustrating first, and then what I really love about it. What's frustrating for me in that kind of system, of course, is even in like second or third grade, many kids are already feeling discouraged and labeled and excluded, and so that part, can be quite frustrating because, I have this third grade girl who will just say, "Oh, I suck." She just says that sometimes, and I have to give her a little pep talk around, no, it's not you, honey, it's not you that sucks at all. It's really the system that we have set up here. But then it's also a privilege and an honor and quite fun at times to work with kids that are already aware, even if they didn't choose it totally on their own, that they don't fit in the box, and they're willing to be really different and dynamic and be themselves even at a pretty young age, because they're already kind of, some of them are already kind of aware, I'm not going to fit into this box, so I might as well just do what I need to do and be who I am. So that part can be really rewarding as well, especially when I remember, to kind of get out of teacher role and don't make them try to fit in that box, but instead just enjoy and play with who they truly be.
You know what? I think what is interesting to me, I know, Kathleen, that you yourself are a special person. And what I think is really, really interesting is the way that you can communicate with children I'm not going to say you're a child, but you've got the childlike energy that you can be on their level of awareness with where they are at. Have you found that? Like, do you often feel like you're there?
Well,
does that make sense?
Noticed that, yeah, well, right. I noticed that one of the things it really came up for me when my own kids were young. My boys now are, young men, but when they were young, I noticed that we don't even have to have a level per se, as you mentioned, and I don't think you meant it this way, but it's not like we ever need to speak down to anyone. That everyone's an infinite being, as we would say, no matter what their age is, and they have awareness, and they have capabilities and talents, and so it's more like, actually, for me, it's more like an unlearning of all the things I learned when I was in school about how you're supposed to be as an adult and how you're supposed to be as a teacher, and then and step into the question, and instead of like, how can whether as a parent or a teacher, how can this person thrive in the world, and how can they truly be who they are, and also be able to work in this reality and be successful and happy in this reality, but not speak down to them. Instead, kind of be aware of their world and their perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Now, you know what's curious to me? I know that you work with adults, like you do the body work of access consciousness, right?
Yes.
So how is it for you when you're working with children, 5 days a week, right, is generally what you're doing, and then you move over and you start to work with adults, do you feel, where do you feel more comfortable, working with children or working with adults?
That's funny. I would tend to say that there's some really fun things about working with adults, but what I notice almost immediately when I make that shift is that children give feedback so much quicker. Like if they're bored, they'll either say something, or like sitting still is hard for a lot of kids, so they'll be bumping and jumping and moving around. So you get so much more feedback with kids about whether something's working or not. Where if let's say I'm facilitating the Access Foundation class, which is bodywork, people are just laying on the table, which is different. But when you're like teaching a class where you're interacting with adults, it's funny how they've kind of held themselves in a whole different way, where they're like you said at the beginning of the show, where you kind of get serious and they go into their head so much more. And even getting them to be in a question and look at what will change things can be so much more work at times. But I can't really say which one I like more, because I love to see people who are grown-ups per se really getting a different perspective and really unlearning some of the things that are sticking them and limiting them, and getting into this like wow moment. I've seen people in tears when they let things go. And so when it comes to that kind of work, I love working with adults because they have this life experience that they are now using to, if they choose it, to change things and to have a different perspective and to let go of things that have been limiting them for years. But yeah, I don't get as much feedback from them as I do from children, who you get almost immediate feedback from, especially the kind of kids I work with, when things are not easy or going the way that they'd like, or their body's getting uncomfortable or whatever. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Like, just hearing you say that, I'm kind of looking at those places where I've been facilitating with, my clients or in classes. And then when I've been around children, so I'm the ninth of 10 children, so I've been around a lot of kids, right? My siblings have children, and now their children have children, and I was actually a few years ago living with my niece, and she has 2 young boys, and these boys, in today's regular society, they would say that they have behavioral issues. Well, these kids are just really, Kathleen, in your world, in my world, they're really aware, and they pick up a lot of information, and they let you know about it fast. And it's a challenge, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can be a real challenge to be with these boys. But what you're saying, it just shines a new light on it. You're right. There's no guessing. There's no wondering where they're at. Very, very quickly. And I have been with clients who it was like pulling teeth to get them to actually drop all of their walls and really talk about what it is that they want to change, or how they want to, create their world differently. So that's just really cool. It just shines a completely different light on that, which I really, really love. So listen, we're going to go for our first break of the show. And when we get back, I would love to hear more about the new class, the Being You class. I know you're a facilitator for that, and I would love to share that with the world, and how it's going for you, and what you're seeing that class being a contribution to you, and what you're doing in the world. So everyone, stay tuned. We will be back to our very first guest here on the Open Mic Spotlight Show on the Inspired Choices Network with Cathleen Connor right after this commercial break.
Many of us define ourselves by what we have learned in this reality. What would our lives be like if we knew we had infinite possibilities to choose from following our awareness and knowing? By tuning into the Dancing with Consciousness radio show with Access Consciousness certified facilitators Kathleen Connor and Danielle Veranda, you'll receive tools and inspiration to tap into your own knowing and joy. Are you ready to create your phenomenal life with more fun, ease, and play? Listen for Dancing with Consciousness radio show every Monday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, and 6 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What if the world doesn't function the way we've been told? What if we truly can bend the laws of physical reality? What if we can end limitation? What if weird were the coolest thing you could be? And what if it's time for a totally different reality? Are you ready to create it? Are you ready to dream as big as you dare? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything in my life changed for me. This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Gandhi, Galileo, and Aristotle all knew to be true. It's not about the answer. It's about being the question, always. It's about truly being you, whatever that looks like, and changing this world. Is now the time? Start by signing up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. That's beingyouclass.com. What if you are the gift and the change this world requires? beingyouclass.com.
You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight Show here on Inspired Choices Network. To call in and ask questions, call 815-880-8255 in the U.S., 613-800-876. Or you can connect with that. Now, back to the show. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight Show, and my guest today is Cathleen Connor. Hello, Kathleen.
Hello, hello.
So I'm so happy that you're here with me today, and I love shining a spotlight on other people in the world because I really don't think that we do enough of that about ourselves. You know, I think each and every person in the world has something incredible to contribute, but we really do bite at actually sharing what that is. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it does. Boy, I was so excited when I heard that Access Consciousness was doing trainings for people to become Being You facilitators, and that aspect really was the thing that got me turned on about a lot of the Access Consciousness tools, is this aspect of peeling away all the stuff, all the limitations, all the points of view that aren't really you, so that you can step more into being who you truly be. So when I heard that was one of the things we could choose in out of all the different things you can choose in the Access Consciousness menu of choices, I was excited because I feel like one of the first questions that got me interested in stepping into learning more about the Access Consciousness tools were somebody said to me, "Do you have any idea of the gift that you be in the world?" And that really got me curious, because I had a sense that there was a lot more that I could be and do in the world other than just being a teacher, even though being a teacher is wonderful and there's a lot of amazing things about that. I just felt like I could step more fully into being who I was and contribute more in the world. And I don't even mean like that it gave me a life purpose so much, but it gave me permission to be more of me in the world and not hold myself back.
That is so cool. So, Kathleen, if you were truly being you, what does that look like?
Well, that can look like anything, right? You have to be willing to be part of being you. Like people, including myself, think that being you is more this like projected image of who you think you are. Because I know when I was a kid, my mom would say to me, just be yourself. And I'd be like, what the heck is that? I'm like, how do I know what that is, right? But being you can look so many different ways. It wasn't until I started really getting into the question about it, that I could let go of any point of view I had about how I was supposed to show up in the world. Like before really getting into the question about it, I used to think, well, I'm kind of perky, I'm happy, I'm bouncy. I had all these definitions about who I'd be. And, once I learned to get my barriers down and be present, it's more like, one thing that people have told me forever is that I don't judge as easily as some people do, and just be present with people in a whole new way when my barriers are down and I'm really just listening to them. That's part of being me too. I don't have to show up as like perky or bouncy or always enthusiastic or happy. I can just be quiet and be present with somebody as well. So it's really not a definable thing so much as being present with what you have to contribute and what you can receive in the world each day and each moment.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I've had a lot of people in my life, Christine, you're so outgoing, you're so bubbly, you're this and that, and sometimes I am. And then those moments when I'm quiet and I'm introspective or I'm listening or I'm watching, people have often said to me, what's wrong? As if that part of who I be is not real and true. So when people are saying that, has anybody ever said that to you, Kathleen, when you're not being your outward self, that there's something they assume is wrong?
That doesn't come up that often, but sometimes it might. I think where I notice the definitions coming in place is that most of my family still lives back east, in the eastern United States, and I only see them a couple times a year. And when I'm around my family at times, I notice that I can, I find myself almost needing to step back into a role to fit, and then I get back into the question and being like, no, I don't need to step into that role. I can really choose what's going to work for me here. So for me, it's not so much that people don't say what's wrong as much as if, again, I'm really being present and I have my barriers down, they're just grateful that someone can receive them. Because as there's, at least most of us are not taught to be really present and listen to people and be someone that can just receive somebody without a point of view and without judgments of them. People are usually so grateful that they're not usually asking me what's wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Kathleen, when you are not at school and you're not facilitating classes, what do you enjoy doing?
Well, as you know from my radio show with Danielle, I enjoy dancing. And actually for many years, I was putting my attention on partner dancing because there's lots of things I love about that. But more recently, especially because my body was starting to complain and my shoulders and that kind of thing about the partner dancing, I've gotten more into just going out and moving my body, whichever way is fun, to music, because my body loves that, and not having to be in that more structured position of partner dancing. And even with partner dancing, you can really be playful and fun, so I still do that. And I love being outside in nature, and I love playing with anybody who's willing to be in the question about what else is possible here, whatever that looks like, playing with groups of people around that.
Yeah. So, Kathleen, if there was one thing that you would like to accomplish this year, just this year in 2017, one target that you would like to nail, what would that be?
Boy, that's the kind of question that we can make ourselves wrong with, or we can create more with, right? So I just, I just realized, especially as, again, you're aware that there's so many people around us that are reaching what, looks like really big targets or really big goals, and it's really easy to make ourselves wrong and be. So, the first thing that comes to mind for me is what I would like to, when you talk about nailing something, I go back to thinking about Jesus and the cross, but
oh, we've got
no
to
matter
tell them
what,
that.
yeah, we can come back to that. But no matter what occurs this year, no matter what I create in my world, what I'd like to do more than anything else is not make myself wrong, to really step out of any judgment I have of myself or anybody around me, and to get back into the ease, the joy, the exuberant expression, the fun, the play. So no matter what occurs, like what my life looks like, not making myself wrong for any of it, and really getting into that question that we love. It's like, what's right about me that I'm not getting? What's right about this that I'm not getting? Because I just sold my house, and I don't currently have a new place to live yet. And it's really easy to be like, oh my God, what have I done? Is there something wrong with me? And so just getting myself back into that space of how cool is all of this, and how can life even be more than an adventure, and how much ease, joy, and glory and expression of me can I have with all of this? So yeah, being in that space.
I love that. I love that of really coming out of that and the willingness to not judge yourself. Do you recall when you first started to really judge yourself, Kathleen?
Oh boy, I think it was even probably, it's so long ago that I couldn't even necessarily put a finger on it. I do know that, according to my siblings, because I don't even remember all of it, that I used to really push my dad's buttons. Like, we had this family table that was in a circle, and according, I don't, I guess I've wiped this from my memory to some degree, but according to my siblings, I was the master at, like, pushing my dad over the edge, right? and sometimes I had to run away from the dinner table before he would, like, luckily he had great patience, and so it's not like he would spank me that often or anything. He was really very patient man, considering, but I just was full of, like, stirring things up as a kid. And so I think early on I judged that I needed to let go of that pushing people's buttons and become like a good girl. And I can't even tell you what age that was, but yeah, I stopped pushing people's buttons, at least outwardly. Maybe did it in more discreet ways, but
I love that. I was wanting to in my head. So when we started at such a young age, when we start to judge ourselves at such a young age, Kathleen, what does that create in our world, and how does that impact, so many of our choices? Like, even our choices to, create friendships, and our choices to what kind of career we go into, and the people that we, end up being with on an intimate level. What does all of this self-judgment actually, the impact is, now that I'm looking at it, is pretty far and wide, or can be. What have you noticed about yourself?
Well, it's funny. For me, I think of one of my favorite movies that shows that progression of changing that and creating something else is the movie Incredibles. And in the movie Incredibles, they show both the adult superheroes and the kid superheroes in a family who are trying to close down their capabilities and talents and abilities because of what trouble, it supposedly causes in the world. So they have to close that down. And I'm thinking of the teenage girl, I think her name is Violet, if I'm remembering correctly, the teenage girl, and how at the beginning of the movie she has her hair over her face and she's really shy, and she's really discontent with her life, and then she gets called out essentially because she has to step up her superpowers to not only protect her but her brother and her parents with that little magic bubble that she makes. And by the end of the movie, she has her hair back, she's shining more brightly, and when some boy goes to ask her out, she even finishes the sentence for him because she's willing to be even more confident than he is. And I love that movie for showing people what we do in terms of the little boy named Dash as well. Like in the end of the movie when he's running in a race and his parents are like, go, go, go. And then no, slow yourself down, slow yourself down, slow yourself down. this aspect of all the crazy things we do to fit in here that just don't make sense, but we almost have to get to a point, like I see with my own children, who my two boys that are 18 and 22 now, how they were as kids and how they are now, and the way they kind of hold themselves back to fit in here. So it's the process you really have to kind of learn on your own, because if I had had some of these tools when they were younger, maybe they wouldn't have bought into fitting in here as much as they do. But I just realized to some degree you just have to learn how to be willing to step back into being you, because you get so shut down as a kid, even when your parents and the people around you try their best not to do that. It's just part of being here. So I don't even remember your original question, but that aspect of how can we, both for ourselves and the people around us, give people permission to step back into being who they are and not to have that look any kind of perfect way, to let it be a messy journey, but a joyful, fun journey of just expressing who they are in the world.
Yeah, that's a big question, and you've brought a lot of new questions to my mind from your feedback. So we're going to come back to this right after our next commercial break. You are listening to Open Mic Spotlight with our guest Cathleen Connor here on the Inspired Choices Network show. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Many of us define ourselves by what we have learned in this reality. What would our lives be like if we knew we had infinite possibilities to choose from following our awareness and knowing? By tuning into the Dancing with Consciousness radio show with Access Consciousness certified facilitators Cathleen Connor and Danielle Veranda, you'll receive tools and inspiration to tap into your own knowing and joy. Are you ready to create your phenomenal life with more fun, ease, and play? Listen for Dancing with Consciousness radio show every Monday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, and 6 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What if the world doesn't function the way we've been told? What if we truly can bend the laws of physical reality? What if we can end limitation? What if weird were the coolest thing you could be? And what if it's time for a totally different reality? Are you ready to create it? Are you ready to dream as big as you dare? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything in my life changed for me. This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Gandhi, Galileo, and Aristotle all knew to be true. It's not about the answer. It's about being the question, always. It's about truly being you, whatever that looks like, and changing this world. Is now the time? Start by signing up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. That's beingyouclass.com. What if you are the gift and the change this world requires? beingyouclass.com.
You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight show here on Inspired Choices Network. To call in and ask questions, call 815-880-8255. In the U.S., 613-800-8255. 800-878-8736 in Canada, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. Now, back to the show. Welcome back, everyone, to the Open Mic Spotlight Show here with my wonderful guest, Cathleen Connor. Kathleen, before you jump back into this conversation, I would like to let everyone know how they can connect with you in the world. So where can people find you, Kathleen?
Check under my bed. No, just joking.
Yes,
I don't even fit underneath my bed. I think the easiest way, really, if you're on Facebook, is to look me up, Cathleen Connor, as Kathleen spelled with a C, and Connor, Connor, and then also email Kathleen at accessconsciousness.com, and I have a website, exuberantlybeing.com. But yeah, just any place where I'm on Twitter as well. But I think the easiest thing is checking me out by email at Kathleen at accessconsciousness.com.
Cool. And Kathleen, where do you where do you live in the world? And can people come to your physical classes? Where in the world can they come to your physical classes? And do you do anything like any kind of coaching or anything online?
Yes, I'd love to work with people one-on-one from wherever you live in the world. I happen to live in the Portland, Oregon area right now, where we've had some really fun snow here that we haven't had in a long time. But so I live in the Oregon area, but I love to work with people no matter where they are in the world, so we can do it by phone or by Skype or any way that works for, by Zoom, any way that works for people, because I noticed that doing that one-on-one work, you can really dive in deep to the things that are personal to your life and change the things that you would really like to change. So I love doing that kind of work.
Cool. And Kathleen, let's talk just for a couple of minutes about your radio show here on the Inspired Choices Network.
Yeah, so I have a radio show right now. It's funny, I have to think about it because I started out, as you know, Christine, with Growing Up Conscious, the first radio show I did, and then I was Super Scoop of Consciousness, and now Dancing with Consciousness. You wanted to add something to that, Christine?
Well, I was going to say, Kathleen, it's really fun that you are my first guest here on the Open Mic Spotlight, because you have been continuously choosing into bringing your voice into the world. And you started out with a solo project with your Growing Up Conscious, which I absolutely loved that show. And anyone that has children out there that you are looking for more guidance with, more possibilities with, as a parent, as a teacher, or even a child that would like to know more about how to deal with your own life, go check out those in the archive. So that's Growing Up Conscious with Kathleen. And then you did a collaboration with two other ladies, Trina Rice and Kim Milana-Lucian, and on the Super Scoop of Consciousness. And you ladies did that for well over a year. And as people change, those ladies went on to create other things in the world. And now you are doing Dancing with Consciousness, which is on Monday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry, tapping into my brain. That's there. So
you're probably hearing my time, not your time.
What is the Dancing with Consciousness radio show all about?
Well, since both Danielle and I love dancing, it's that kind of metaphor of how to, part of the tools of really being in the question is that things can change every 10 seconds. And if you're really going to be conscious and be aware of that change, you need to be able to kind of dance with it. If you're not dancing with it, then you tend to either be resisting something or aligning and agreeing. And both of those are not really tapping into your own knowing and your own like spirit of being, essentially. So dancing with consciousness has to do with being fully who you be and being in that flow of consciousness instead of trying to like define yourself or solidify yourself in any way. Really being in the flow and the movement of true consciousness.
Very, very cool. And do you ladies have guests on your show, or is it just always the two of you? Do you ever fly solo? What's it look like?
Yeah, obviously it's creation and process, since it's a relatively new show, but we have actually 3 different people coming up as guests. So we do a combination of interviewing guests and being on together, Danielle and I being on together and addressing topics, and I'm sure eventually also doing some solo shows. The last show was solo for half the show because it was the first time ever that Danielle forgot that she was supposed to be on the show. So it was kind of funny because that's happened to me too, where I'm like, oh, I need to be on the radio right now. So it was a half solo show until she's like, I'm here. But essentially, yeah, we do all sorts of different things, and we are kind of creating it as we go to see how much fun we can have. I have a guest coming up. His name is Scout Bartlett, where he has his own radio show and he has his own following of people. So I'm looking forward to interviewing him near the end of January, and reaching out to a bigger audience because of the people he knows. So I'm excited about that.
Nice. And do you ladies have a website or a Facebook page where people can connect with the show?
Of course we do. No, we do have a Facebook page. We're still working on the website landing page piece, but we do have a Facebook page called Dancing with Consciousness. It's an easy way to reach both Danielle and myself if you want to tap into our radio show. Nice.
Very cool. So, Kathleen, let's get back to our conversation before the show ends. It's just about over. And sometimes, do you ever find that these radio shows seem to be like, what am I possibly going to talk about for 40 or 55 minutes? And then it's like, wait a second, it's just about over.
Yes.
So when we went, just before we went to our last commercial break, you were talking about the children and we were talking about making ourselves wrong and being the invitation to our children to not. But what I thought was really incredible was how you talked about stepping into who we really be and not making ourselves wrong and discovering that and how it can be messy. And what kind of popped into my mind is, when we're young and we're children, little children before we go to school, right? We're just out there. We're kind of letting everything hang out. We're doing whatever we want. Our parents think that we're just the cutest thing since sliced bread and all the rest of it. And then we go to school and we're trying to literally see where we fit. And we start to do follow the leader stuff, and we start to mimic other people, and then we want to belong because we want, everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be accepted. And I think that's where we start to put ourselves into this box, and we start to replicate where other people are, who are also, by the way, replicating where everybody else is. Right? Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's just trying to replicate the other person. But I think, maybe part of really discovering who we truly be actually has to come out of this place of trying to fit in originally. Does that make sense?
Well, especially because it's so tricky to know what you know, because as a child, if you're aware of some ways that your parents are really dysfunctional or unhappy, it's hard to know that. One thing I kind of replicated early on is I remember being doubled over in pain sometimes in my belly area, like when I was walking to school or as a young child. And that was really my dad. My dad held a lot of his stress and a lot of his pent-up energy in his gut, and digestion tract and all of that. And so as a child, I had like a sensitive stomach, for lack of a better way to put it. And I just thought that was something wrong with me, instead of knowing that I was kind of duplicating my father, And so when we hear things as a child, and people are saying one thing, but the energy does not match it, we think that there's something wrong with us, right? We think there's something wrong with us. So even now as an adult, it's quite tricky still to know what we know, and one, not go into judgment with it, and two, and not go into judgment of the people around us or ourselves, but just be willing to be aware and ask questions about it and see what you actually can change and what you can't, because you see people around you making really crazy choices, and some of it you just can't change because people are not interested in changing it. So it can be like a hero's journey to some degree, to continue to be willing to be aware, to not like do drugs or not numb ourselves out with food or drugs or alcohol, but just be willing to just be aware of it all, and to have our barriers down and receive it all, and not try to define it or control it. It's as you know, quite a process. So that aspect of fitting in is usually what we start with, but for anybody who has that a desire to really choose more, they can only do that for so long before they're like, okay, what else can I choose here?
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah, it can be daunting, and I've seen some people choose that for most of their lives, and then I've seen other people totally choose who they are, which is really phenomenal. Okay, we are going to go to our last break of the show. You are listening to Open Mic with my guest, Cathleen Connor. We will be right back after this commercial break.
Many of us define ourselves by what we have learned in this reality. What would our lives be like if we knew we had infinite possibilities to choose from following our awareness and knowing? By tuning into the Dancing with Consciousness radio show with Access Consciousness certified facilitators Cathleen Connor and Danielle Veranda, you'll receive tools and inspiration to tap into your own knowing and joy. Are you ready to create your phenomenal life with more fun, ease, and play? Listen for Dancing with Consciousness radio show every Monday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, and 6 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What if the world doesn't function the way we've been told? What if we truly can bend the laws of physical reality? What if we can end limitation? What if weird were the coolest thing you could be? And what if it's time for a totally different reality? Are you ready to create it? Are you ready to dream as big as you dare? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything in my life changed for me. This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Gandhi, Galileo, and Aristotle all knew to be true. It's not about the answer. It's about being the question. Always. It's about truly being you, whatever that looks like, and changing this world. Is now the time? Start by signing up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. That's beingyouclass.com. What if you are the gift and the change this world requires? beingyouclass.com.
You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight Show here on Inspired Choices Network. To call in and ask questions, call 815-880-8855. Correct? 613-0088. At Inspired Choices Network. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight, and my guest today is Cathleen Connor. So, Kathleen, we've been talking a lot about being you, and what's the thing about you that you've discovered about being you is exciting? Something you've discovered about yourself in the last few years.
Well, I've heard this said quite a bit, and it might seem really simple, but for me it's not, and that is that, often people think that being you has to be some kind of job you do or some kind of role that you play. And I saw from being out and doing dancing with the social dancing network here in Portland, that just when I'm out on the dance floor and I'm willing to be expressive and fun and not have to fit into, for instance, Zydeco dancing. There's traditional Zydeco dancing, and then there's kind of the way that I like to do it. Zydeco dancing.
How do you spell
from that? It comes from the Cajun roots essentially, but it's it starts with ZY. Zydeco. I don't even know if I can spell it now, but ZYDECCO. It's done to a kind of music where you can really move around a lot and enjoy your body, but just at first I received some judgment because I was moving so much, and in the original way you do it, your body is more restrained, but I was just moving with the music. And I realized just from being out in the dancing world that I was being the invitation to people to play more and to like their body and to move with the music in a joyful way. So, even just being me and dancing helped, expand people's worlds essentially. So being you doesn't have to be like a particular job that you do, or I see people, struggling with what's their life's purpose and that kind of thing. And it's not so much about that as can you be exuberantly expressive, whatever that looks like, whether you're being quiet or whether you're, being loud or anywhere in between, with who you be without, holding yourself back or judging yourself. Can you do that in every moment of your day in a way that brings presence and just if people are willing to be themselves, there's just naturally an invitation to the people around them that it's okay to choose that, if that makes sense. It's just okay to choose that.
Choose you, for sure. So we just got a minute left here in the show. Wow, it did go very, very quickly. Kathleen, I just want to say that I really appreciate you, and I'm really happy that we chose that class to play in together and to have fun together. And oh my gosh, that weekend we laughed so much together. And the contribution you are in the world is wonderful. And I'm just looking forward to seeing more of the contribution of who you be and what you're choosing in each moment. And I think the world is a better place because you're in it.
Oh, that's very sweet, Christine. I thank you so much, and I really feel privileged and excited to be on the show today and to have a chance to express all of that in the world. So thank you so much.
Woo! You're welcome. Okay, so thank you everyone so much. We will see you again on our next show.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Dancing with Consciousness radio show. Danielle Veranda and Cathleen Connor will return next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, and 6 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We look forward to you joining us. Until then, enjoy the dance of being you with ease and joy.